Namaste, dear viewers. Namaste, Abhay ji.
Namaskar.
Welcome to this 10th episode of the limited video series of literary and critical conversations. This time, I present to you a poet cum diplomat who, in one of his interviews to Setu, has said, "There is a glorious tradition, though not so well known among the literary community, of poet diplomats or poet ambassadors writing great poetry while representing their countries." As Pablo Neruda, Chile, George Zephyrus, Greece, and of course, Octavio Paz, Mexico, who also received the Nobel Prize in Literature. And there are more. Friends, he's none other than Abhay Kumar, noted poet, editor, translator, and diplomat from New Delhi, India. Here's his formal introduction. Abhay Kumar, also known as Abhay K, is an Indian poet diplomat and currently serves as the Deputy Director General of ICCR, that is Indian Council of Cultural Relations, New Delhi. He served as India's 21st ambassador to Madagascar and Comoros from 2019 to 2022. He has also served in different diplomatic capacities earlier in Russia, Nepal, and Brazil. Abhay K from Nalanda district of Bihar is author of a dozen poetry collections, including Celestial, Map in India 2023, Stray Poems, Poetry Wala 2022, Monsoon, Sahitya Academy, New Delhi 2022, The Magic of Madagascar, El Hermiton, Paris 2021, The Alphabets of Latin America, Bloomsbury, India 2020, and the editor of the Book of Bihari Literature, HarperCollins India 2022, the Bloomsbury Anthology of Great Indian Poems, Capitals, New Brazilian Poems, and the Bloomsbury Book of Great Indian Love Poems. His poems have appeared in over 100 literary magazines, including Poetry, Salzburg Review, Asia Literary Review, among others. His Earth Anthem has been translated into over 150 languages. He received the SARC Literary Award 2013 and was invited to record his poems at the Library of Congress, Washington, D.C. in 2018. His forthcoming poetry collection is titled In Light of Africa. His translation of Kalidasa's Meghaduta by Bloomsbury, India 2021, and Ritu Samhara, Bloomsbury, India 2021, from Sanskrit have received KLF Poetry Book of the Year Award 2020-21. For more info, visit www.abhayk.com. On behalf of Setu, I extend a hearty welcome to Mr. Abhay Kumar.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta ji. It's a real pleasure and honor for me to be part of this limited video series. Setu has been doing some pioneering work in promoting literary exchanges. As the name suggests, Setu means bridge, and it's building bridges across cultures, across civilizations. And thank you for the initiative to invite me on this program. Also, I would like to thank the whole team, including Sunilji, and the other members of the Setu team for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you so much. So at the outset, let's sample his art. Death is an ocean, life is a river, is one of his signature poems from his collection Stray Poems, published in 2022. Here it goes. Death is an ocean, life is a river. The river flows into the ocean. The river fears it will disappear, all its bends, mighty currents. All its glory will be gone. But that's how it is. The river cannot flow back to the plains and the mountains. It must flow into the ocean and become one with it, where the sun will work its magic and clouds will appear. The breeze will carry them to the mountains, where a new river will be born. It's a superb poem, Abhay, where I see the birth and death cycle being represented metaphorically.
Thank you. Yes, that's what it is. It follows the path of a river, as life is compared with a
Mm.
river, and a river that has to flow. A
Mm.
river is not stagnant. It cannot be stagnant. It has to flow, and it has to flow into the ocean and merge with the ocean.
And we
And
can
ocean
just
is
move
infinite.
towards future. We cannot go to the past. We can just
True,
move
true,
on. We
true.
cannot move back.
And exactly, and so this, I mean, I find this such a great metaphor, for life and death. And what is exactly death? I mean, ocean is a symbol of eternity. I mean, it's vast, it's infinite, and and that's what I think death is. And and what happens after death? I mean, a new life comes out of that, because as we see the seeds, the seeds must die for a new plant to be, for new plants to be born, to germinate. So beautiful metaphor here of river flowing into ocean.
Well, Abhay, you are a well-traveled person who has visited Peru, Chile, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, Central America, Brazil, Russia, and met the poets, writers, and artists of contemporary Latin America. Share something about your impressions and life there.
Well, Latin America is a continent which is known as the continent of magical realism. And magical realism is basically magic and reality, coming together. So while I was in Brazil, I had the opportunity to go across these countries and see life there firsthand,
Mm-hmm.
and write about monuments, personalities, food, culture of these places in and put them together as a book of poetry, a collection of poetry titled "The Alphabets of Latin America." And these alphabets, for me, actually initially, but the poet diplomats like Octavio Paz from Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
Pablo Neruda from uh, Chile, Gabriela Mistral from Chile, and uh, uh, and many others. So I also tried to see uh, the modern side, the modern Latin America, and life there. So I've written about the carnival, which happens every year in Brazil, one of the greatest events on our planet. And I've written about carnival. Actually, one of my favorite poems. I tried uh, to use the structure of that poem to bring out the carnival, and it was a poem by T.S. Eliot, the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock.
Okay.
I tried to take Prufrock to Rio and let Prufrock see the carnival and react to that kind of extravagance, that kind of
Great.
yes. So that's one of the poems which is one of my favorite poems from that book, The Alphabets of Latin America. And I've written about Borges, and I've written about like Cecilia Meirelles from Brazil, who visited India actually, and she was the one who wrote a whole book on India. In Portuguese, it's titled Poemas Escritos na India, and that book has been translated into English now, and I was able to make these literary connections between India and Latin America. And as Setu, you build bridges, I try to build a literary bridge between India and Latin America through my travels, through my poems about Latin America and people of Latin America.
That's true. Your work is really remarkable. And this was quite an experimentation of what you spoke about just now. Well, you are a distinguished diplomat and a poet. How do you manage to straddle successfully between these two different worlds?
Well, I try to balance my time. I do not have any other passions except my work as a diplomat and writing, observing and writing poems, editing anthologies. So, and of course, spending time listening to bird song in nature. So, so I do not have many other, distractions in my life. So I'm able uh, to to balance between my work, literary work, and diplomatic work. And for me, they complement each other. For example, I would be a poor poet if I was not a diplomat, and I would be not a great. I mean, not a not not a. I would not be a good diplomat if I was not a poet. So for me, the compliment, I'll give you one example, for example, I'll give you just one or two examples. So when I was in Latin America, in Brazil, for example, I used to do this literary program called Chá com Letras, Tea with Letters. And that helped me to connect with lots of people uh, in Brazil, whom I would not be able to connect otherwise, or even if I am able to connect, it would be at a very shallow level. It would be at a very professional level. Same thing in Kathmandu, where I used to do Poemandu. So I was able to connect very widely with a wide section of people and at a much deeper levels, so that uh, so what happened when I left Nepal, or still, I have left Nepal a long time ago, but still I have many who remember me or remember the Poemandu event or remember conversations. So these things, I have built long-lasting bonds, or you can say the bonds which last. So that does not happen just, if I were just a diplomat and I was not a poet. So and traveling, for example, if when I go to Kathmandu or uh, to Latin America, I write poems about these places, and I would not be able to write these poems if I'm not there. So my work as a diplomat helps me to become a better poet, and my being a poet helps me to become a better diplomat.
Yeah, so your vocation and evocation are intertwined, you mean to say.
Right.
That's amazing. Well, what motivates you to write quality poems consistently and with such elan? What drives you to use your time so artistically? Intense
Mhm.
emotions or empathy or global concerns?
I think it comes from uh, this urge to to bring together uh, the whole um, I mean everything together into
Mhm,
oneness, this
mhm,
feeling of oneness. So I think the planetary consciousness that we are a planet. I
mhm,
mean that's also part of this consciousness of being one. For example, I mean my latest poem, which is also a book length poem of 100 rhyming stanzas. It's called Celestial, which is going to come actually in September. So here, someone on earth is looking for his love in the stars, star constellations.
mhm.
And the poem takes you to all the 88 star constellations visible from Earth. So
Oh, wow.
it's also that feeling of cosmic unity, not only planetary consciousness that we are a planet, but also this consciousness of unity, that we are also actually part of the universe. We are the universe actually. So uh, uh, as people say, we are made of stars. And so this whole, you look at the sky and you see this beautiful star constellations in the sky, and I mean, when I was in Madagascar, in the capital city Antananarivo, I could see the skies very clearly
Mhm,
and see these constellations. And I realized that, wow, you can see these constellations, so they are your neighbors, actually. You can see them through your naked eyes. While you cannot see the other part of the earth, you
mhm,
you cannot see like beyond 100 meters, but you can look at the sky and you can see distant star constellations which are light years away, some of them thousands light years away, but their light comes to you and you can talk to them. You can have a dialogue with them because you can see them, and their light reaches you. So all this, I mean, why do I write poetry consistently? Because I think I have this urge to to make connections, to draw a poetic portrait of the places I visit. For example, Monsoon, another book length poem of mine, which is 150 quatrains,
yes.
600 lines.
Mhm,
I mean, that takes you from Madagascar to Kashmir, where the monsoon travels along the path of the monsoon winds. And it's a love poem, actually. And it's a love poem, but I mean, love is just it's just a pretext to write about biodiversity loss and climate change, and to celebrate
okay.
language
Mhm,
languages, cuisine, connections, etc. So monsoon, I mean, becomes a uniting force between,
mhm.
it unites the whole Indian subcontinent with all
Wonderful.
the Indian islands.
Quite fascinating. It has been noted that you have a preoccupation with
Mhm.
topography, so to say, that
Mhm.
remains as a leitmotif in your work. Let us
Mhm.
know more about Monsoon. You spoke just now about Monsoon, a poem of love and longing. The book-length
Mhm.
poem running across 154-line stanzas, the long poem that connects Madagascar and India.
Mhm. Yes, so topography is, I think, I studied geography uh, at Delhi University and then Jawaharlal Nehru University. And I think that has stayed with me. And somehow, my job also takes me to different places, so place and space become very important way to organize my poems.
Mhm.
And I think that's why topography features prominently in my poetry. It's
Mhm.
my own growing up uh, studying geography in college and university, and also my occupation, my profession of being a diplomat, which takes me to different places.
Mhm. Great. Would you like to recite your moon anthem here or earth anthem if you wish so?
So Earth Anthem is, this was, I wrote in 2008, and since then it has traveled a long distance, now translated into over 150 languages. And uh, mm, these days, India is sending Chandrayaan 3 to the moon.
Oh, yeah.
And I had written a moon anthem after writing Earth Anthem when
Mhm.
Chandrayaan 2 was just before Chandrayaan 2 was launched,
Mhm.
or it was when it was reaching. So I'll just read the moon anthem. And celestial diamond, primeval timepiece, cosmic lamppost, night's soft kiss, seducing oceans, occulting sun, silver goddess lighting up heaven. Mankind's great leap, ephemeral solace, a pit stop to explore the deep space, eternal companion, ever morphing face, sensual sentinel in tidal embrace, watching in silence earth rise and fall. Moon, 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 we chant it all. Thank you.
That's amazing. I liked your earth anthem also. I participated in that video series. I had sent my
Thank you.
video to you, and that was
Thank,
wonderful.
thank you for your
In June 2020 interview with Setu, you had expressed your desire, quote, "My dream is to have a common anthem for our planet, not only for our large human family, but for millions of other species with whom we share this beautiful planet," unquote.
Mhm, mhm,
And lo, in May
mhm,
2022, you had actually composed the Earth Anthem that was lapped up by hundreds who joined hands in
mhm,
spreading the eco-friendly message. It was
mhm.
also screened at the United Nations commemoration of Earth Day.
Mhm.
Please share with us, how did it all happen? How did it all go?
Well, I had written Earth Anthem in 2008, actually, when I was in St. Petersburg. And and since then, it's been put to music in 2013. It was put to music in Nepal, Kathmandu, for the first time
Mhm.
by Tapan Gimire, and it was sung in all the United Nations languages, all the 6 languages, by Shreya Sotang.
Mm.
And then later on, Dr. L. Subramaniam, he put music, he composed another music for it, and Kavita Krishnamurti sang it along with Bindu Subramaniam. And and then, it's been a long journey for Earth Anthem, actually. Uh, it's been translated into over 150 languages. So when I was saying in my interview to Setu that my dream is to have a common earth anthem. It was because we do not have a common earth anthem yet. It's a process, it's a quest. And I would love to see a day when we can have a common earth anthem adopted in the UN General Assembly or by UNESCO. And a song which everybody can sing. It does not matter from which country we come from, and we can be truly truly a planetary citizen. We can sing a song for our earth, our real home. And that's why in earth anthem I say that it doesn't matter whether it is animate or inanimate, because earth anthem includes everything. Let me just read it for you.
Yeah,
Our cosmic oasis, cosmic blue pearl, the
sure.
most beautiful planet in the universe. All the oceans and all the continents. United we stand as flora and fauna. United we stand as a species of one earth. Diverse cultures, beliefs, and ways. We are humans. Earth is our home. All the people and all the nations, one for all, and all for one,
Oh yeah, I
united
remember.
for the blue marble flag. That's a quest to bring not only animate species, but also inanimate oceans and continents, because there is no animate without inanimate. We exist, it's all one, it's universe. Universe is one verse, actually. In Latin it means one verse. So all, I mean, you see, the whole universe is poetry, actually. So that's why probably it's called universe. And I mean, we cannot exist without earth, without water, without air, without the elements. So what is it that makes animate inanimate and animate inanimate? You know, and the same question Kalidas asks in Meghdut, that uh, to a to someone who is in love, what is animate and what is inanimate? And that's why he asks the cloud that you take my message uh, to my beloved. But the cloud is, I mean, the cloud is not sure. And uh, that how can a cloud, a concoction of water uh, and wind, radiant vapor and lightning, carry a message usually done by a wise messenger in flesh and bone? He urged the cloud without paying attention to these, mad in love, for the love's sake, what's animate and what's inanimate. This is the cloud messenger, Megdutam of Kalidas, which I have translated. I just read a line from it.
That's a monumental, immortal work you have done. So
Thank you.
difficult to translate. Translation itself is an art, and you have done it wonderfully.
Thank you.
May your desire of having a universal earth anthem come true soon.
Thank you. It will be a great achievement, I think, for humanity and for the rest of us to have a common song, common anthem for our planet.
Please share some memorable incidents of your career.
Well, I mean, I have been to many countries, served in many countries, and for example, I was one day, I was strolling in the street in Kathmandu, and I entered a bookshop, and then I I saw a book which was published by Bloomsbury, India, and it was a book of drawing, I think, and uh, and then I wrote to them, that if they would like to publish. I mean, that was the first time I had come across that, and I just wrote to them if they would like to publish my poetry collection on Delhi, the seduction of Delhi, and they were interested, and that's how my literary journey began with Bloomsbury. And by it was, I think, in 2012 that I 12 no 2013 or 14 I saw that, 13 I think. And then by 2020 I had 10 books with Bloomsbury. So that's amazing. I mean, that was something, it was an accident, it was a coincidence, that I entered that bookshop and looked at that book and wrote to them. And that's how my, I mean, literary journey in past 10 years, it's been mostly with Bloomsbury, India. Then uh, I would, from the diplomatic career, I would say that once, like when I joined the foreign service, I was on training for some time, and they put me as a liaison officer for a former prime minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and his name was Vasudev Pandey, and he had come for the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, and we connected very well with each other. And when I finished my training and I was posted abroad, I just wrote to him by chance that I was visiting London, and I just wrote to him that if without knowing anything, that if he's in London, I would like to meet him. And he was in London. It's just a coincidence, and he invited me for lunch with him. So all these amazing, exciting experiences I've had. Uh, there's so many more, but like just I think the best ones have been to wherever I have been, whether in Kathmandu or in Madagascar or in Brazil. I've done literary programs like Poemandu, as I mentioned, in Kathmandu, Chacon Letras in Brasilia, and La Litana in Antananarivo or Tananarivo. So all these have been very satisfying to me, and very enriching experience to meet people and to
So some very happy coincidences you still remember.
right.
And it's, of course, very fascinating to be with the movers and the shakers, the prime minister there. So
Right.
thank you so much for
For
sharing
example, in
interesting
Madagascar,
nuggets of your life with us. Yeah.
right, right. For example, in Madagascar, uh, I mean, we were donating 5,000 bicycles to Madagascar,
Oh.
and we were having a ceremony like for donation ceremony, and then uh, like I mean, I just requested the Prime Minister of Madagascar that let us ride the bicycles for the
Yeah.
and he he rode the bicycle, but he was like almost he was falling, and so that video of his slightly, like, he was slightly falling, and both of us were riding the bicycle. It went viral, and it was like so someone told me that, I mean, maybe you should have cut that part, but it would not have gone viral, without that. So I think that's what people like. People like real things. They don't like, all polished stuff. They like real. We are, I think we are good with our imperfections. We should not be perfect, actually.
Yeah. So all natural
Yes,
things should be there, retained.
correct.
Yeah. You have translated the monumental poetic works Kalidasa's Ritu Samhara and Meghaduta. In this context, I would like to ask you, what are your views on translation as an art, and how has been your experience of translating Meghaduta and all of Kalidasa's works?
Well, I have only translated two of his poems, Meghdootam and Ritu Samharam.
Mhm.
And translation is very important. I mean, uh, without translate, it's the translators who make global literature. Uh, it's the translations which make national or regional literature into global literature. So, without translations, we won't be able to reach or read a vast amount of work.
Mhm.
And so, translation, I believe in translations, good or bad. As I shared with you earlier, that I like imperfect things. It cannot be 100%. So, I'm not for perfections. So I don't think anything can be perfect. So it's a so any attempt to translate is, I think, admirable. And translation means that you want to reach out. You want to reach
Yeah.
out beyond your boundaries,
Mhm.
beyond your limits. And uh, and without translations, we won't be able to read much of the literature of other countries, other cultures. So we won't be able to understand them. So translation is not just a literary uh, process to take. It's also intercultural dialogue. It's a intercivilizational dialogue, and we cannot understand. I mean, it's very important for us to who live on a cosmic oasis. uh, Oasis is a very small thing, in a desert. So if you look around the universe, it's basically a desert. Earth is an oasis in that desert. So we live on a very small planet, what Carl Sagan said, a pale blue dot, if you look at it. Even from Mars, Earth is very small if you look at Earth from Mars. So, and so that's why I have written a Mars anthem as well. Actually, I have written anthems on all the planets in our solar system. So
Okay.
one of the things I say in Mars anthem, that let's not you know uh, let's stop the petty wars, uh, and uh, get in the spaceships and sail to Mars. So it's a quest that we shouldn't be spending time in stupid things like wars uh, and um, unnecessary competition which we have, and all the mess we have created as a species, biodiversity loss, climate change, and so on. So that's why it's very important to have this intercultural dialogue, intercivilizational dialogue, so we understand each other. And that's why translation is so important. Kalidas, particularly translating Kalidas, has been such a great experience for me. Uh, I have loved translating him. I find Ritu Samhara as a work of eco poetry, where if you read the summer of Ritu
Mhm.
Samhara, uh, it's full of empathy for the animals. For example, see here, scorched by the sun's savage rays, tormented by dust, the cobra pants time and again with his hood drooping as he creeps to rest in the peacock's shade.
Mhm.
So cobra is, because of heat, you know is taking shelter in peacock's shade. Cobra and peacocks are enemies. They don't like each
Mhm.
other, but they are, because of summer, they are together. So who can be a better eco poet who is writing about cobra and peacock? Uh, I mean, so when we talk of eco poetry, nobody talks about Kalidas, and Ritu Samhar is such a beautiful text for that. So I wrote. So translating Kalidas has been revealing. I have written. I have written, uh, Kalidas, uh, in, 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 during the time of climate change and biodiversity loss. I mean, what Kalidas teaches us. And because in Meghdut, for example, he preserves all the names of all the plants which were there. You can trace them back through his poetry.
Mhm.
So, so such an important poet, and he seems to be our contemporary. He's so fresh, and by translating these two books,
Mm.
I I ended up. I mean, they inspired me to write Monsoon, which has become, which has been chosen by the Harvard University assistant professor Sarah Dimi for uh, for her book project on climate and literature. So, so I think it's been truly a greatly satisfying job to translate these books, two books of Kalidas, two poems actually. I mean, I'm a poet, so I'm mostly focused on poetry. I did the translation. There were 100 translations of Meghdut, but I think none of them were by a poet. So I thought that I should do a poetic translation of Meghdut.
I take this opportunity to read a quatrain from this book of yours, Monsoon, a poem
Mhm.
of love and longing.
Mm.
I dream of you every night, the shimmering dawn snatches my dreams, but the morning breeze comes, whispering your name, permeating my being with your thoughts, only your thoughts, my love. Quatrain 3, page 1. So,
Thank you.
a very beautiful
Thank
translation you have done. It doesn't look like a translation, in fact, the way you have
But
translated.
this is from Monsoon. This is my own poem.
Is it? Okay.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Monsoon is my own poetry.
Meghadoot. Ah, mhm, I see. So, well, you have a pesha for photography too that you share on social media. So tell us about that.
Well, I mean, I also paint actually. I'm also an artist. So I
Painting
mean,
also, photography also.
right. So I mean, I see beauty all across, I see them all. I see all art forms as one actually. And it all comes from
Within.
the divinity, I mean, divine within us,
Mhm.
and so I don't see them as my photos or my works. I see them as part of the divinity which I have within me. So it's like, I mean, all these works are not right. I mean, artists are basically representations of divinity. I mean, if you look at that way.
Mhm.
So the words which come from us are basically words being spoken through us, or paintings being done through us.
Mhm.
So all the beauty I see through, I mean, see through the camera, I try to capture. These are basically beauty of nature, beauty of divine. And I mean, people say that, where is God? But God is everywhere. I mean, a butterfly, a waterfall, a
Very true.
sunrise. I mean, the the perfume, uh, everything. The voice. Where does this voice come from? So I mean, all the beauty. I mean, I think these are all. It's we who put a limit to that. I think it's all indivisible. It's all one actually.
Yeah, we have been brought up reading poetry of those poets who have also seen nature as living beings.
Mhm.
So we tend to think the same way about nature.
Right.
Well, please share your thoughts on your upcoming poetry book, In Light of Africa.
So I was posted in Madagascar, and I had the opportunity to spend lots of time reading about Africa, watching documentaries, and traveling to a number of countries of Africa. And I wanted to learn more about Africa. So the best way to learn about any place is to write about that place. So so when you want to write something, you cannot write until you learn about that place. So so this is also one of my ways to remove my ignorance of the places I'm interested in, or people I'm interested in. So what happened that after the alphabets of Latin America, I wanted to do attempt a book on Africa. And Africa is vast, actually. There are more than 55 countries in Africa. And so how do you, and then Africa has the oldest history on this planet, actually. It goes well beyond 5,000 years. So 5,000 years is recorded history, actually. From the first pharaoh, the first dynasty was 3,000 BC, Narmer. And so I have tried to 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 write about the people who shaped Africa, and also to highlight Africa's contribution to modernity. Because human beings, as you know, evolved in Africa. We are all Africans, actually. It's Mother Africa. People say Mother India, but it's Mother Africa. And anthropologically, if you look at, we are all actually from Africa, and we are all Africans. And so going to the Rift Valley, where humans evolved, where bipedalism happened, we started walking on our feet. I mean, so all those places I see as a places of pilgrimage. The real pilgrimage should happen there, and all the contributions Africa has made. Africa, I mean, if you look, so I try to capture the dance forms, the rituals, and I think this is a thick book. I mean, it's going to be, there are more than 150 poems in that book. So it's almost equivalent to 3 poetry books, actually. So in light of Africa is my, I mean, it's daring. It's more like an attempt to write about Africa. I mean, writing about Africa is a difficult task. It can be very challenging. And one of the African writers has warned not to write about Africa. But yet I have dared, and I have tried to. The title of the book actually comes from a poet diplomat, Octavio Paz, who wrote the book In Light of India. And I also wanted to pay tribute to him, actually, because his book is on India, is essays on India. I wanted to capture Africa's beauty and diversity and contributions in shaping modernity through poems. And this is yet to find a publisher. Hopefully someday I'll be lucky.
Our good wishes for the success of this book, In Light of Africa.
Thank you.
Quote the quote that sums you best.
We are humans. Earth is our home.
Great. Any message for the literary audience?
I would say that read a lot, and most of the writing is actually reading. 99% of writing actually comes from reading. So read a lot, and writing, as R.K. Narayan, the author, Indian author R.K. Narayan, he says writing is a yoga. You learn writing by writing, actually. So we all learn it in the process of writing. And I think it's very important to to write and have a discipline to which is almost like yoga. It's almost like it's a
Yeah, we should
meditation.
keep recording things. Our thoughts should always be recorded.
True,
And then
true.
later we can work on them.
On those thoughts. So whenever something comes to you, a thought comes to you, a line comes to you, it's very precious. Write down in your notebook or mobile
That's
phone or
important.
whatever device you have. So work on an image, work on a line, work on a stanza, and this is uh, how large works are built. For example, for monsoon, I got this first line. I wake up with your thoughts,
Mhm.
and and it slowly started building. And I initially I had a different idea. Then I thought how to build it up, and how monsoon could be a messenger. But I mean, it all comes from a line actually. When you think of
Mhm.
this is how poems are born. Like the celestial was born when I saw a midnight. I mean, post midnight around 3 o'clock. I saw from the balcony Scorpius, the constellation Scorpius, very
Mhm.
bright,
Mhm.
and I thought of this line. I mean, which came that time. Awake, awake, awake whole night. I savor starlight
Mhm. Mhm.
before the blinding sunlight obliterates you from my sight. So it's how this is how looking at the Orion, I look thinking of you. I look at the Orion's belt, and all my sorrows melt. So it's I mean, these are the lines which I thought I wanted to write. I mean, I wanted to experiment with rhyming stanzas. Uh, I mean, just to kind of being playful, and you know I had read a poem of Lord Alfred Tennyson called Locksley Hall, which
Mhm.
was 97 stanzas and rhyming stanzas. So I just wanted to attempt. So these are all like challenges you want to put to yourself. But most of all, I would say that have fun with language. I mean, basically it's play. I mean, everything, whatever you write, it's a play. Basically, you're playing. It's lila, as you say, it's lila, right?
Yeah,
So
play of words,
yeah, it's so you are
literature.
basically, yeah, you are basically playing with words.
Hmm.
So until you enjoy it yourself, how is audience going to enjoy it?
Hmm.
So have fun. Have, while you are writing, you must enjoy it. You must find it pleasurable, then only it can give pleasure to others.
That's true. That's very, very inspiring message, I would say. So one should
Thank you.
keep writing, keep recording one's thoughts, and then later polish them as per
Right.
the availability of time.
True.
Thanks for being with us, Abhay. It was pleasure hosting you. Best wishes for your future projects. Thank you again. Thanks, viewers. In the next episode, we will present to you another sparkling conversation with another eminent guest. Till then, bye bye.
Bye. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaste.
Bye.